And we're joined by Sam Samadar, the airport director here at YLW. So we now have these 737 MAX 8s banned in Canada. What was the experience this morning for people who were expecting to travel?
Well, we had another number of complicating factors this morning. We had fog for a short period of time, so we had two flights that were canceled coming into the airport because of that. With respect to the 737 MAX, WestJet canceled one of those flights and repositioned the aircraft. And so the passengers were reaccommodated on other flights.
So for those travelers, what it meant was flight canceled, new arrangements made, and they could fly out, but later than expected.
That's correct. Basically reaccommodating those passengers to deal with the situations that we were faced with this morning.
Okay, so going forward, I believe that WestJet has about 13 of these aircraft. Is that a big part of their fleet? And how much disruption do you expect to happen as a result of this?
Well, the way I can describe the situation right now, it's very dynamic. The minister announced the ban of the 737 MAXs over Canadian airspace this morning. And so the flight ops folks, both at Air Canada and WestJet, are extremely busy in terms of how do they take the 737 MAX out of their inventory and reposition other aircraft to make sure that they are trying to accommodate the passengers in terms of their final destinations.
So it sounds like it's sort of unclear as to how disruptive it's going to be. It'll be a big thing for the airlines to manage, but I guess we'll see.
It's going to be dynamic. I mean, that's the best advice I can give passengers. I would suggest that they check with their airline to determine exactly what's happening with the status of their specific flight. But I know the airlines right now are working very, very hard to try and resolve this issue and try and reconfigure aircraft, reconfigure routes. And the complicating factor we have amongst all of this is we've got school spring break. We're in Ontario spring break this week, and we're starting at the end of this week with the BC holidays. So these are high traffic volume a month really of high traffic that we have through the airport, and that really is a complicating factor in all of this.
So yeah, for people who have vacations booked, what's that typically going to mean for them?
Well, again, I would suggest check with the local your local airline in terms of what they're doing to try and reaccommodate you if they need to reaccommodate you. And so, you know, there is an inventory of aircraft that, of course, are not affected by this and are continuing to fly those routes. But I would also suggest the airlines are also repositioning some of their airplanes, some of their assets to accommodate routes that have been left vacant by the 737 MAX.
This morning's example was interesting, where an aircraft was sent somewhere else to cover a route that I guess was really important for the overall flow of traffic. So even if somebody had a vacation booked and they're, oh, it's not one of those aircraft, we're fine, you still could get caught up in this because the airlines will be having to move planes around.
They will. They'll have to move some of the assets, and that's where I'm talking about. They'll reaccommodate those passengers. They'll have to rework their schedules in terms of getting them out of here.
It sounds like it's going to be quite likely a very interesting spring break, and I mean that in kind of a bad way.
Well, you know, the airlines are adept at trying to do the best that they can sometimes in some difficult situations. I mean, we do get things like weather delays and all those kinds of things. This is much bigger than that, but certainly working the network to try and reaccommodate all the passengers and make sure they get to where they're going at some point is what the airlines will continue to do.
Thanks very much for this, Sam Samadar,
Thank you. My
Airport
pleasure.
Director, and thank you for watching Kelowna Now.